got up meaning to watch the highlights on Spark, and they didn't have the highlights package up, the bastards. But I ended up just watching like the first innings and just living with my thumb on the skip 10-second forward thing in between all the deliveries. So I watched the first innings of that, and Cleaver looked sketchy early on. Like he came in, he looked nervous, hadn't really scored runs internationally before. Then started to get a couple. I think there was a full one which he sort of stepped into, a full and wide one that he sort of lifted just over cover, but hit it really nicely, like a nice lofted cover drive. Went to the boundary for 4, and that kind of got him going. And then very soon after that, he slugged a 6 over mid wicket, and then looked pretty comfortable from there. At one point, there was a little like, I guess what we're starting to become known as like that little Joe Root scoop thing that he does, where he sort of just like lifts it over, not so much like the McCullum over the keeper, but like really deliberately trying to lift it over short third man kind of area. He hit one of those for 6. It was gorgeous. Like, and then he just got better as it went along. And I think his wicket keeping has been really sharp in both games. Like he's had a couple of really nice moments there as well. So I think we sort of mentioned this on, I think it must have been the Patreon one, like Tim Seifert's a bit of a forgotten man at the moment. I don't think anyone will have thought of him for a little while either without listening to that chat we had, because it's like Dane Cleaver looks every bit a 2020 international wicketkeeper. And we know Cam Fletcher has pretty much had an identical case to be in this same position as well, and has been considered like the next man up in test level based on selections. So, and Tom Blundell himself isn't going anywhere. So there's some nice wicketkeeping stocks here, but it looks like unless Devon Conway is going to be like it's 2020 wicketkeeper in a first 11 moving forward, like he was sort of middle of the World Cup range, which was a bit of an afterthought, but also did a perfectly good job there until he punched his bat and broke his hand. But Dane Cleaver, maybe, because I don't know if Finn Allen really has a spot in the first 11 right now. Like he might be sort of like get your reps in, work your way through, and when Guptill retires, that's you. Like you've got that spot. We're building you up for the overlap here. But I don't necessarily, because if you're going to pick him to open, Daryl Mitchell can't open, and then if Daryl Mitchell isn't opening, does he make the team? Or because how do you get Conway and Williamson back in there, or does one of them open, or whatever? Like, I think probably our best opening partnership in 2020s would be Guptill and Conway, and especially if you've got someone like Cleaver in the middle order. Phillips is in good form. Michael Bracewell has announced himself as well. Daryl Mitchell's in and amongst, all these dudes, Jimmy Neesham. Like, I don't necessarily know that other guys have a shot for something up for grabs, but because wicketkeeping is such a specific role, I think Dane Cleaver maybe has a bit of a clearer path to that kind of status, and he's gone a long way with a big innings there and some very tidy glove work. Gone a long way, even in just 2 games, to at least putting his hand up and saying, "You didn't pick me for nothing. Like I'm good enough to stake a claim here."
That's a interesting pocket just to continue our kōrero here, because you look at this batting lineup from the second T20 against Ireland. Finn Allen can wicket keep. He wicket kept Super Smash games. Dane Cleaver is a straight up wicket keeper. Glenn Phillips, sometimes wicket keeper, sometimes offie, like more of an offie right now. And then other names you mentioned there, Tom Blundell and Cameron Fletcher seem like they are being groomed. Well, Tom Blundell is the test wicketkeeper. It seems like Cameron Fletcher is being groomed as a backup test wicketkeeper. And then Tim Seifert appears to have fallen out of this little frame. Devon Conway has been a wicketkeeper at the international level as well.
Tom Latham is another one.
And Tom Latham
not really in the 2020 picture, but he could be,
Well, he's the ODI wicketkeeper.
Yeah, exactly.
So that seems like a leisurely job, because you don't
three different keepers in 3 different formats as well.
Well, like ODI wicketkeeper, you're not doing anything. You mentioned Neil Wagner doesn't play cricket. Like if you're the ODI wicketkeeper, you're like, oh, where's my wicketkeeping gloves? Like Tom Latham's
I'm sure I packed them somewhere.
Well, he packs them and he's like, haven't used these in a while. Like they're a bit smelly, but mold isn't growing on them. Like he doesn't do any other wicket keeping mahi, and they barely play ODI cricket. So it's a strange phenomenon for him. And we often forget, who's the ODI wicketkeeper? Well, for whatever reason, it is Tom Latham. And that's actually a weird scenario. Like, Tom Latham is certified number 5 wicketkeeper batter in the ODI team. And he doesn't do any other wicket-keeping, and he's the test opener. It's just an interesting pocket, but then again, considering all these other wicket-keeping lads, it's not unique. Like, it seems like every one of these little wicket-keeping situations has a bit of funk to it. Like, whether it's Finn Allen or Devon Conway, sometimes wicketkeeper, sometimes not wicketkeeper. Neither of them, like, if you're playing for Wellington Firebirds in the Super Smash, Tom Blundell might be away on test duty, but if Tom Blundell's there, he's the wicketkeeper, Finn Allen and Devon Conway are running around in the field, and then don't want to get caught up in the mangroves here, but if Blundell's away on test duty, then Conway's also away on test duty, so then Allen becomes the wicketkeeper. I'm interested in who's the better wicketkeeper, Finn Allen or Devon Conway. I don't what have we known about Cameron Fletcher over the last few summers? One of the best Super Smash batters in Aotearoa. So I'm not necessarily sure what the difference is between Dane Cleaver and Cameron Fletcher. So it's like, the wicketkeepers are laid out for us, right? Like, Latham, ODI wicketkeeper, Cameron Fletcher, backup test wicketkeeper, Dane Cleaver's getting a crack at the T20 job. I think I was writing about this like in 2017. Like, all these dudes were hot in Aotearoa. They were all like competing to back up BJ Watling. Like, of course, there's some cricket coach out there who could spot the difference, and maybe that's you, because you just said Dane Cleaver's been pretty nice behind the stumps wicketkeeper. So maybe you should do some research and video footage here. But like, is Tom Blundell that much better of a wicketkeeper than Dane Cleaver or Cameron Fletcher that he deserves the test keeping job, which in theory is more prestigious? Or is it he's a better batter, better equipped for test cricket? Because that's weird, because then you go to Cameron Fletcher, he's the one who's like consistently smashed Super Smash boundaries, but he's the test wicket keeper backup, and Dane Cleaver's the T20 international keeper. I don't know who the best keeper out of those dudes is, let alone what they offer with the bat. And now you're kind of telling me you want Dane Cleaver in the first 11 T20 team, which I don't disagree with. It's just a weird scenario right now, and none of this is right or wrong. Like, I can see Dane Cleaver being in a first 11 T20 team, but it's just it's so strange, because like, he has just suddenly leapfrogged Tim Seifert. Tim Seifert's barely a factor right now, and then you've got the part-timers, and then you throw in Latham. Like, it's all very weird and interesting. Like, it's not like, here is Aotearoa's best wicketkeeper batter. His name is BJ Watling. Like, that doesn't exist right now. And of course, getting caught up in the mangroves, like, they still had a bit of Luke Ronke in the white ball and all that shit. Like, BJ Watling wasn't exactly the T20 ODI wicketkeeper that whole time as well, but it's all very convoluted. These estuary waters are quite murky, but it's in a fun way, because you do get Dane Cleaver popping up to bat 3 in a T20 international, and you do have all these situations that I just explained.
Yeah, it's definitely, it is in a fun way, because it's like, they're not scraping the barrel here. The point is that these guys are all very good and have put up consistent cases over several years of domestic cricket to say that they should have these roles. I think Blundell's main difference is just that he got in earlier. Like, just that he was selected as the test guy a bit earlier, therefore he's had some experience. And at this point, like, the runs he's scored, and he's not done anything wrong with the gloves. He's been a good, solid wicketkeeper. I don't know that he's better as a gloveman than Fletcher or Cleaver, but he's scored multiple test centuries, and that's worth something. You know, you do that, you get rewarded, you get to continue playing. And it's not like, I don't know if he's better than them. That's because they're also really good. Like, it's because each of them is good enough that you can start picking on like little things. And that's kind of the point, isn't it? It's like, had they yeah, maybe some coach can see intricately enough the differences or the logic ideas behind or the theories. Sure, I'm sure there's plenty of that. But had they said, Dane Cleaver, we want you to be the backup test guy. Cam Fletcher, we want to give you an opportunity to play as the 2020 wicketkeeper when we pick a specialist, because I still kind of think Devon Conway still gives the best balance if he's the keeper. It's only 20 overs, you don't get that much to do. And it means you get to pick someone like Michael Bracewell or something, which maybe makes more of a difference to your overall balance of your team. Even if he might miss a stumping now and then that the others might have gotten, I don't know. But like, just score the runs, who cares? I still think that's probably the case, but they do obviously want to have a specialist guy who they can rely on, because they tried it for a long time with Tim Seifert. Now it seems that it's Dane Cleaver. But yeah, like I say, if they had said, Cam Fletcher, we want to give you a shot at the 2020 gloves, and Dane Cleaver, we want you to be the test backup, would that make any difference? Like, do you think that it would actually, like, would that be any worse off than what they're doing here, or any better off? Like, it sort of feels like it's interchangeable. It's almost a little bit like, we'll pick one to do one, we'll pick one to do the other. It doesn't really matter which one we pick to do either, though.
And then it kind of, like you said, Blundell's there because he scored runs. So that just sets up everything else. Like, Cleaver's scoring runs. So that's his. And what have we said about Blackcaps entering the Blackcaps for a while? Take your opportunity. All these dudes take their opportunity. Daryl Mitchell, Glenn Phillips. Like, Glenn Phillips, Daryl Mitchell, they scored runs on test debut. That helps. Kyle Jamieson instantly took his Blackcaps opportunities, and that set him up. So I think it might just be as easy as who's scoring runs. And then it's just like, because Fletcher can score white ball runs, and Blundell's not a... Cleaver and Fletcher feel a bit more Tim Seifert-ish in that they have the power. Blundell's a crafty little wicket-keeping bugger, though. Like, he knows he can access the boundary in various ways. Like, he's got some tricks as well. So without like getting into the mangroves about wicket-keeping skill sets and prowess and efficiency of movement and all that type of shit, none of them stand out as like dropping chances, right? So it's hard to like really dissect the differences. So then you're just getting into who's scoring the runs. And yes, there is a like Blundell. There's no reason to drop him. So you're not just going, oh, Fletcher's scoring more runs than Blundell, so Fletcher's in. Like, that's not the situation. It's just like, when it comes time to decide between players, that's a key indicator. Just quick question to wrap this up. Is Fletcher your T20 wicketkeeper? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying it's all interchangeable. It's kind of like could have been.
Who is your guy?
I like Dane Cleaver. I saw him score 100 in the Super Smash. Was it last season? I think it was last season.
So you're saying Cleaver wicket-keeping ahead of Devon Conway wicket-keeping?
Well, no, if I was picking the 11, like I said, I think the balance of the team, you get more options if it's Devon Conway with the gloves. But Cleaver is a better keeper, and they do seem to, maybe Conway doesn't want to keep. Like, maybe he doesn't feel comfortable with that, in which case, yeah, like, sweet. We pick a wicketkeeper, and Dane Cleaver is as good as anyone else. And like you say, scored good runs in his second opportunity with the bat. That's how you command more opportunities. Like, that's how it goes. You do that, you don't have to worry. You don't score runs, and you find yourself in a Tim Seifert situation, or like the many bowlers we've talked about who have gotten opportunities and not taken enough wickets, or not been able to restrict runs and stuff like that. Take your opportunity and you're sweet. And Dane Cleaver seems to very, very small sample size, but seems to be doing so.
All these dudes we're talking about, they have one thing in common. And that they started playing domestic cricket between 2010 and 2012. And so they're all mature. They're all hovering around 30 years old. Like, Glenn Phillips is not in the wicket-keeping discussion, so fuck him. He doesn't matter here. He's an off-spinning bowler. He's a bit younger, but all these other dudes are around 30 years old. They've been playing domestic cricket for a long time. Even Michael Bracewell, Daryl Mitchell, those characters are the same. And as I just have confidence in them because of their maturity, because they know who they are. They know their tūranga waiwai, their mana from a personal, spiritual perspective, but as cricketers, they know what works for their game, their skill sets, their strengths, their weaknesses, and so on and so forth. Someone at the opposite end of that chart wildcard is Reece Walsh.